Feeling okay?
Everybody's healthy, and we're on the job trying to deal with this public health emergency and also the economic fallout from it.
Now, Senator, you know the Senate well. You've been the whip. You were one of the senior leaders. You were also Supreme Court Justice of Texas. You know how difficult it is to write good laws. Where do we stand? We are blessed by your leadership, John Thunes and Mitch McConnell, but where are we in the process?
Well, the president signed the second installment of legislation we passed. The first was the 8.3 billion, which was designed to jumpstart vaccine research and expand the access to testing kits and the like, provide some other emergency funds. The second one had to do with people who were quarantined at home and worried about their paycheck, as well as the food banks and food supply generally. The third one is going to be focused primarily on two things. One is getting cash into the hands of people who have been laid off through no fault of their own because of the impact on the hospitality industry, the airlines, et cetera. And then the second part is to deal with some of these systemic challenges, like the airline industry, for example, that if they don't get the help that they need, they'll go bankrupt pretty quick.
You know, Senator, broadcast is on the brink. Don't know if you know that. Broadcast is on the all the advertisers. My show's fine. My advertisers love me, and they talk to 6 million. But the radio stations out there in Texas that are 3 or 4 chain radio stations, they're going to go under.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Congress can do as much as it can do, but there are always going to be people hurt by this downturn in the economy. J.P. Morgan was predicting a negative 4% growth the first quarter. I think they said to 14% in the second quarter. They expect a V-shaped bounce in the third and fourth quarter, but there's going to be a lot of pain in the interim.
Now, one of your friends and one of the people I love having on, Lindsay, he's using the wrong metric. This is not about how many employees a business has. It's about revenue interruption. And I think of some of these restaurant chains, and I have no money in them, and they're not my clients, et cetera. They've got thousands of employees. They won't qualify for 500 employees or less. That's the wrong metric. It's lost revenue. Revenue interruption is what needs attention.
Well, I agree that that is important as well. I talked to a friend of mine who employs tens of thousands of people in the hotel business, and he said their occupancy is down around 9%. And so we're trying to figure different mechanisms to get cash to people, whether it's deferring their filing with the IRS and paying their taxes by April the 15th, or the Fed is using its authorities to provide backstops to money market funds and the like. So we're trying to figure out what are all the tools in the toolbox, and frankly, I think we'll end up using all of them before we're done.
Now, Senator, I like to lobby when I have a chance. Whatever you're going to spend, double it. Honestly, I mean that, double it. And then I think you ought to forward appropriate our strategic systems like the B21, the Columbia class, by which I mean you say to Northrop Grumman, what do 180 B21s cost? Here's all that money. You bank it. You steward it. Your supply chain will get a strong signal through all the noise that they've got jobs for 10 years. Ditto whoever makes the Columbia class. Is there any chance that Congress will think out of the box and do the kind of things that will send that kind of signal that will get through the noise?
Yes, I think that is being discussed with some of my colleagues. I think the Pentagon has a wish list of about $19 billion, which compared to the rest of the money we're going to spend is a drop in the bucket. But these are for things that they say we need to keep our country safe, things like ships and airplanes. And
by the way, I heard about that, and I said they're not thinking either. They've got to forward appropriate the entire acquisition of the F-35 so that everyone knows it's not just this year you get relief. You're in the business for 10 years. The economy will come back roaring if you just trust them. But I know Congress hates to give up the year-to-year authority.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're trying to figure out how to deal with this immediate emergency, and long-term thinking is not our forte here, particularly we're in the midst of a crisis like this, but I take your point.
All right, last question. There's a lot of talent out there. Bob Iger, for example, just left Disney. We need special government employees like World War II who will serve for $1 a year. And, put Iger over at OPM, which just lost their head. Are you guys thinking in terms of stuff like that, bringing in talent?
Well, of course, I think that's probably more suited to the executive branch. My impression is that they're getting a lot of advice. I'm certainly getting a lot of advice, and as I reach out to constituents in Texas and elsewhere, try to figure out what to do. I don't think there's going to be any shortage of talent, volunteer and otherwise. So I think that's a good point, though. There's a lot of very talented people that can help the government at this time of an emergency.
Yeah, in WW2, they had dollar a year people who ran whole industries, and we got lots of them. We got lots of people, and luckily you got Mitt Romney, Rick Scott, and a bunch of people like you and Chuck Grassley, legislators plus private sector experience. John Cornyn, we're in great shape. We will bounce back. Thank you for working the hours you're working. I really appreciate it, John Cornyn. Hey, America, we're off of our knees. We're getting back up. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Adam, Ben, Generalissimo, thank you all. Thank you for listening. I'll be